My brothers and sisters, you are now watching the Gamer 2323, so just forget about the chores you're supposed to do. Put your feet up, get your Kool-Aid, fried chicken, popcorn, get whatever you may need! And I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so we are officially in year 2023, and gaming is looking very promising this year. I don't want to get, too ahead of the curve, because I feel like we go into every new year saying like, yo, this year got so many games, it's gonna be crazy this year. And then when the games start like dropping, they either like completely flop or they're just, but on paper, this year does look very promising, my brothers and sisters. This is going to be my top games that I need for 2023, the games that I'm looking forward to the most. I probably will also have like an honorable mentions list, for games that I still do want, but just not as much as the main games that I want. Let's get right into it. My games for 2023. That's Star Wars Jedi Survivor, my brothers and sisters.
Yes, sir.
Woo! I cannot wait for that game to drop, okay? It's crazy because I don't give a freak about Star Wars as a franchise. I think it's one of the most trashiest franchises ever. But after playing Star Wars Jedi, or Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which some of my Twitch viewers had put me onto, I think back in 2019. That game was so good to me, not being a Star Wars fan and still like loving the game as much as I did. If this game is anything like that or better, and honestly, that was the best game that they showed at the Game Awards last year. It's like all of the games, that actually had gameplay in them, Jedi Survivor was easily the best game I felt like at the Game Awards. I am getting this game day one. Easily probably in my top 5 games that I'm looking forward to this year. Number 2, I just spit everywhere. Atomic Heart. This game right here was supposed to drop last year, but then it got delayed into this year. And I try to kind of keep my expectations in check now after what happened last year with Dying Light 2 and like other games throughout the time. We should not be shocked when games get delayed no more, especially like these days. But it's kind of like one of those things where you always got to keep your expectations in check now, because you just never know how the game is actually going to be. But when Atomic Heart was shown off, I immediately had interest in it. It reminded me of like BioShock mixed in with Doom, and Mick Gordon supposed to be in charge of the freaking OST in this game. I love the use of the guns mixed in with the powers, and seem like you fighting all these like androids and robots and stuff like that. I just loved how the game was looking, so I hope it delivers. I hope it's as good as a lot of the people that have been paying attention to this game hopes that it is. And yeah, Atomic Heart is another game I have on my list for 2023. Let's see what it's like when it does drop. Hades 2. This was another game that they showed at the Game Awards last year that completely took me by shocking surprise. I was all over this game when they showed this at the Game Awards last year. I will always give credit to you, Brother Immortal, if you're watching this video, for putting me onto the first Hades. Hades is one of the best indie games I have played in the past few years. If you have not played Hades, it is now on PlayStation, but I had played it on Steam at the time, and I just remember like falling in love with the game because of how fun it was. Like, the game is just so fun. The more you unlock stuff, it is one of those roguelike games, but it's not as like difficult as like other roguelike games that's been out there. And you know, as you're playing the game and unlocking all these different skills and moves to use as you're playing, it just gets more and more fun, bro. I loved the game. I loved the way it looks. The music in the game was great. The bosses in the game was great. Hades 2, I didn't think that I'd be saying this game, but because it just literally got shown off last month, I immediately had to add this game to my list. Street Fighter 6. Man, oh man, oh man. I don't ever remember being this excited or like looking forward to a Street Fighter game this much. Like, cause I was never a Street Fighter guy like that. I always prefer, you know, playing, you know, Tekken or, you know, Mortal Kombat, I guess. But after these two betas that they had for Street Fighter 6, I'm telling you this right now, by them betas alone, I already feel like Street Fighter 6 is better than the entirety of Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 6 feels amazing, bro. The game feels amazing. It's gonna have rollback netcode. Like the game just looks really promising right now, and everybody that was in the beta pretty much had nothing but good stuff to say about the game. So yeah, Street Fighter 6, man, again, as me not being like a hardcore Street Fighter guy like that, I am really looking forward to this game. Following up Street Fighter 6, I had to add in Tekken 8. Tekken 8 is another one of those fighting games that just looks really good right now, bro. I will say though, when they had showed like actual gameplay for the game, it didn't look as good as like, remember when they first showed that Tekken 8 trailer and like people was like, yo, is this like actual gameplay? It wasn't looking like it's crispy as when they first showed the game, but the game does still look amazing. And Tekken 7 was like, I wasn't playing those games for years prior to then, because I just kind of fell like out of love with Tekken, you know, after like Tekken, I'd say 4. So I took, you know, a break from it, but then I got back into it with Tekken 7, and Tekken 7 was amazing, bro. I feel like fighting games this year is going to be like one of the top genres in 2023, especially if we get another Mortal Kombat this year and even maybe a fighter sequel. Like, I don't know. So yeah, Tekken 8 also easily on my list for 2023. Now, this is kind of, I don't know if this game is actually going to release this year, but you know, and if it does, it might be like late this year, maybe early next year. Last of Us Factions. Neil, it's time. It's time. It is time. It has been almost 3 years come June that Last of Us 2 dropped. The fact that we still don't have factions yet is crazy, but at least they finally did confirm it last year. They showed a concept art and said, hey, it's a thing. You know, they didn't show nothing else. I'm thinking it's gonna have like some type of like battle royale action, you know, which I do feel like could work really well in a game like Last of Us, just because of how the game is. One thing we cannot hate on is how amazing that gameplay was. The gameplay in Last of Us 2 is like second to none. An amazing experience, you know, just with the gunplay and the whole new dodge mechanic, the prone system, and just all of the stuff that you could do gameplay wise in Last of Us 2. They put in all that stuff in a multiplayer mode of that game. And we so desperately need like an exclusive multiplayer game for PlayStation. I feel like that's one thing that's been lacking on PlayStation for years. Like an exclusive good multiplayer game. And again, it's probably going to be on PC as well. But just for, you know, as a console exclusive. You know, PlayStation has been missing that for years, I feel like. And I feel like if they put in as much love and as much effort as they did in Factions in Part 1, Part 2 can be a game changer. Alan Wake 2. This is another game that I am looking forward to. I had finally played Alan Wake 1, I think back in 2017 or 18 on my PC. I actually feel like it's one of I think it's Remedy that develops the game. I actually feel like that's one of their best games that I played. You know, Control is great as well, but you know, I really liked the first the first Alan Wake. And they said in Alan Wake 2 that is going to be geared more so towards survival horror. So this game is actually going to, I mean, the first one had like, I guess, horror aspects to it, but it wasn't really like a horror game. They like showed the trailer and you could see that this game is going to be way more survival horror-ish. So, I'm all for that. Probably actually one of, you know, if we're not considering remakes, actually one of the new horror games that I'm really looking forward to this year. Had to add it to the list. That Alan Wake 2. Spider-Man 2. It's that simple. It is that. This game might be game of the year. Very well might be game of the year. And I love how after Spider-Man 2018, you just, and it's not just for this game, but you notice like when a great game comes out and then like a year or two later, then people just start to nitpick, you know, every little thing like, oh, it wasn't all that good. Oh, the Mary Jane missions was too like, oh, this, I mean, for that to be Insomniac's first attempt at doing a Spider-Man game, and they gave us that mixed in with all of the different skins if that game came from anybody else with all of the freaking costumes they gave you for free, if that game came from anybody else, they would have charged you for every skin that they had in that game. Insomniac did a phenomenal job with Spider-Man 2018, that being their first game. If they have to go off of that for their first attempt going into the next one, and they've had practice since then, you know, with Miles Morales and the DLC, stuff like that, going into Spider-Man 2, this junk gonna have Venom. It seemed like from that trailer that could have been Craven talking. You gonna be playing as freaking Peter Parker and Miles most likely. You know, put in with all of the villains from the first game most likely making their return in this one on PlayStation 5. If you're able to play as Venom in this game as well. Lord have mercy. Why would Spider-Man 2 not be in every way better than Spider-Man 2018? I feel like this game is going to be amazing. And let me just let me add this in quick too. If Wolverine somehow comes out this year as well with Spider-Man 2, it's over. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. Help me! Help me! Last but not least, that Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. I need that. Listen, we all know how great the first part of this remake. By the time they're like actually done with this remake and like all of the parts are out, it's gonna probably be 2020. 2025 or 2026 by the time they're actually done with this freaking game. So yeah, this game is supposed to come out this year, but late this year. Don't be surprised if it gets delayed till like early next year, but it's supposed to come out this year during the holiday season. That is a true remake. Like when I think of remakes, that's like one of the first games. That is a remake. Like a game to where it's based off of this game, but it's like so different and so like updated to like the point it almost feels like a brand new freaking game. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I guess probably the RE2 remake are like what I think of when I like compare other remakes out there. Like, no, this is the blueprint. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, because of how much I love the first one, I cannot wait for Part 2 to come out. I know Suggers is looking at Final Fantasy 16, bro. I don't give a freak about that jump. I really don't. I mean, I'm not really like a Final Fantasy fan like that. You really no ways, you know. I just really like 7, you know, and you know, seeing Final Fantasy 16, I mean, I probably still might get it, but it's like, you know, just looks like Devil May Cry to me. You know, so. And my honorable mentions. I got a couple of honorable mentions that I wanted to add to this list, to where games that I still am looking forward to, just not as much as the other games that I just mentioned, but I do still plan on getting these games when they come out as well. RE4 Remake, I know, I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but I'm gonna get the game, but the way other people are like so excited, listen, I've said before, I feel like Resident Evil 4 is one of the most overrated games like ever. The way people think this is one of the greatest games of all time, I don't see it, bro. I just recently beat the original, and when I say recently, like 2 years, or maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, recently beat RE4. I just cannot for the life of me understand why people think that is like the best Resident Evil game ever. But I still will be getting the game when it comes out. So the RE4 remake, the Dead Space remake, again, this is a remake that I felt like didn't really need to come out, you know. Hell, maybe they should have just canceled Callisto Protocol. They put like all their attention into this game. Legend of Zelda, I forgot the rest of the name. But that game right there, it probably is going to be the game as I look over at my Switch that's been completely abandoned since like 2019, really. That's probably going to be the game that makes me turn back on my Switch. I'm not hyped for this game at all. I really don't care about Zelda at all like that. But I will say that I was wrong on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I still don't feel like in that year it deserved Game of the Year over like over the other games that dropped that year. But when I actually did play Breath of the Wild for myself some, I was like, I get it. This game is a really fun game to play. It's a really comfy game to play, and I can see how like people fell in love with Breath of the Wild. So I get it, but yeah, it's not really a game that like that I have marked on my calendar or nothing like that. It's not like a game that I'm like really hyped for, but I do feel like it'll be a game that gets me to turn back on my Switch. You know, so from that standpoint, I almost didn't put this on the list because I am so like unsure about what we're really getting with this game, but because I just recently replayed through all of their games with the Batman series, I was like, bro, no. Suicide Squad game killed the Justice League, whatever. Now, with what we've seen from that game so far, nothing amazed me. It wasn't like I was, oh, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for this game to come out. Really, nothing from that game like wowed me. Maybe because I don't care about the freaking Suicide Squad neither. Like, I'm not interested in those characters. I really feel like that's where it comes from. I don't care about the Suicide Squad. I don't care about those characters. This is going to be our first game we get from them, what, since like Arkham Knight in 2015 it was? Me not being a Batman fan and me just recently replaying through those games again like last month or like the month before that. I'm like, man, Rocksteady really was in their bag with these 3 games. And if they can get in that same bag with this Suicide Squad game, maybe on a lesser level, but still be in that same bag, man, this game might be like a real shocker for a lot of us. So yeah, all of the games that I'm really, really looking at going into this year. Again, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to get too like far ahead of the curve. I'm not trying to get too pumped. But with all these games that we have dropping this year, if you look at this year on paper, just as far as all of the games we got, and you scan down the list and you see this game and that game and this game and that game and this game and that game, if these games actually deliver, let's say if like 70% of these games deliver, this is going to be a very good year in gaming. Probably the best year yet that we've had in next gen. You know, the third year going into PS5 and that Xbox Series X. You know, we should be getting better as time goes on, right? And I feel like it's going to really start with this year. Hopefully, y'all leave y'all comments and thoughts down in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, happy new year to all of you guys. So the next video, my brothers and sisters, I'll catch y'all boys in my next one, all right?